all, this is a tutorial on how to graph the data from the class we did the other day on wellbeing around the world and the measurements. First off, you're going to need the data. So in class we had a shared Google Drive Sheets file that we worked on. I have sorted that and put it onto the website. So you can find that data, if you haven't already got it, under Global Wellbeing, Term 3, Week 1. And if you click on it, scroll down, and you can see it here. And when we click on that, we should get the data here. And once it's downloaded, we can click on this and it pops our spreadsheet here. So a way of looking at this is just to see if all of the data here makes sense. Meaning, is there anything that sticks out as wrong here? All these should be in the same sort of percentages. All these should be in the same sort of numbers, which they are. There's nothing that sticks out as being completely different from the rest of the data in those columns, which is good. So what your task is to create a graph or 3 graphs from this using 3 different indicators. To do that, easiest way would be to type in country here. The easiest way is to simply highlight this column. You can do that 2 ways. You can click, hold, and drag down, or if you click on this cell, go down to the bottom, hold shift, click on that cell. It'll highlight the whole column. Let's say we wanted to do infant mortality rates. So I've got my column highlighted for countries. I then hold Command and click on the heading. I let go of Command. I go down to the bottom. I hold Shift, click on the bottom. And there you can have 2 columns highlighted that aren't next to each other. From this, I'm going to make a graph. Insert. I'm going to create a column graph here. And there we have it. It spat me out a graph. Now I need to make sure it looks reasonable and looks like it should be talking about what we are. So I go to here. This is my highest point in the Congo. And if I go to the Congo here, that makes sense because it's the highest number here. So that's good. All the rest are relatively low, which matches up with this graph. I've got my country names down the bottom, which is good. On the side, I've got my numbers. I don't quite know what they mean just yet because I haven't got anything labeled. So I'm going to click on my graph here. I'm going to go to Add Chart Elements. I'm going to go Axis Titles, Primary Vertical. If I double click in there, triple click in there, highlight it, and I'm just going to say rate per 1,000 births. Okay, and now I can see what these numbers actually mean. And it says it in the title, but it just helps to have these here. You notice I don't need a key because my countries are labelled down here, so I don't need one of those legends on the side there. And that's as simple as it is. And you can do 3 separate ones following the same process for 3 separate data points. So we just did infant mortality rates. You might then choose to do mortality or life expectancy. Try and choose some that you want to see a pattern in. So if you think, well, I wonder what causes infant mortality rate. Perhaps it's population that's causing that. So I'm going to do another graph now. And this is a bit more complex. I could do a separate graph. Okay, I could keep that simple, do a separate graph for population, have a look at the patterns I can see, which is fine. I can easily do that. Or I can make one with both on it. So to do that, I'm going to highlight this, hold Shift, hold Command, let go of Command, hold Shift, hold Command again. So now I'm going to do a couple of different things on the one. Hold Shift. Okay. So now I've got two columns highlighted that should spit out in a graph. Insert, graph, cluster. Bang. First thing I've got to do, say, does that make sense? Yes, it does. They're both showing up. But you can see from here, the problem with this lies in that population is in millions, right? And infant mortality rate is in the single digits. So it's quite difficult to measure those on the same scale. One of the things I can do is put them onto a secondary axis, or I might choose to look at something different because these two can't be measured on the same scale. I'm going to choose to look at something different. I could simply do another graph by highlighting these for population alone. So I can make another graph for population here. Okay, so that's easy enough to do, and it spun out the numbers that I want, and I can simply measure that over the top of this almost, like so. If I line it up, I can start to see if there's any real patterns between these two things. Oops, not going to let me do that. Let's bring it down the bottom of it, not over the top of it. Cool. So I can start to see that if population was causing, if high population, let's say, was causing infants to die, this has the highest infant mortality rate. I should see a massive population boom here, but I'm not. I'm seeing a small one. Here's a massive population in China, but China also has one of the smaller sort of graphs for infant mortality rate. So just because they have a high population density does not mean to say that they'll have high infant mortality rate. So that's immediately obvious to me, and I can see that by looking at the two graphs. Let's try something now that is putting two graphs on one. So again, highlight my countries. I'm going to do infant mortality rate. Hold Shift. There we go. Hold Command. And I'm going to do I'm going to do perhaps life expectancy. Hold Command. Hold Shift. Okay. Insert graph. Okay. So these two are better at being able to be measured, mainly because they're using whole numbers and they're all below. But I don't like this. I don't like these bars being bars, let's say. So what I'm going to do is change that to a different style. So I'm going to change chart type to a line. And then you can put one as a line and keep the other as a column. So do I see any patterns here? So the line is life expectancy. Where it's low, I find a high infant mortality rate. That makes sense. Here I've got a big dip in the life expectancy. Now immediately I should look at this and go, that doesn't seem right for Ireland. And why is that? I look at my data and I come down to Ireland. Is it Ireland? Here. Life expectancy 81.5. I'm not getting that from this graph. It says the value is 81.5, But for some reason, life expectancy in Ireland is saying 0. So whenever you do these graphs, you've got to take it with a grain of salt, so to speak, and fix any errors in here by maybe re-entering that data point here. If we just put that as 81, see what happens. It fixes it. So it possibly could have been that dot point there that wasn't quite right. So can we actually see any patterns? Sort of. There's a low life expectancy here with a high infant mortality rate. However, there's a low life expectancy here, and the infant mortality rate still is nowhere near that of the Congo. So something else is going on here for the Congo that's not just leading one to cause the other. Here we have the similar mortality rate for the Maldives as we do for Kazakhstan, but their life expectancy is completely different. So what else could be happening there, do we think? All right, that's the ins and outs of it. Hope that helps.